Hello. I hope your day is going really well. For those only listening, I just slapped my knee there, but I hope you got the joke. Today's guest is Paul Meiklejohn. Paul is a BMX, cross-country, and downhill mountain bike racer. Over his career, he has gained 16 Ontario Cup wins in downhill mountain bike racing, 2 Canada Cup wins, and a silver at the Canada National Championships. In 2002, Paul got what is considered a perfect season, going 6 for 6 in Ontario Cup wins. Paul is also the first in Ontario to get Pro Elite status as a Masters age rider. Paul is a founding member of the Turkey Point Mountain Bike Club, which was established in 2011. I highly recommend joining it and supporting it. It's only $35. We talk about it in the podcast. Paul is also the owner of Elevation Mountain Bike Camps and Coaching, which specializes in mountain bike tours, rentals, and lessons. Now for today's cocktail.
Today we have the Trailblazer. The first step is to roast a jalapeno. You can also torch this in front of your guests for a bit of a show and aroma. Muddle this in the bottom of a shaker. Add an ounce of maple syrup, a few dashes of Angostura bitters, an ounce or two of your favorite tequila, a half ounce of triple sec, an ounce of fresh lime juice, some ice, and shake well. Add ice to a cocktail glass. Strain your marg and top with a splash of club soda. To finish it off, garnish with a lime wheel and enjoy. The Trailblazer is a bold yet refreshing cocktail inspired by Paul's adventurous spirit and Canadian roots. Now, here's the 19 times mountain biking champion with a perfect season.
Hey
Paul
you,
Meiklejohn.
you're listening to Just Drew, Just Drew, Just Drew.
Yeah, I appreciate that. The audio, I think, is the most important.
Absolutely.
Video is secondary, but video just kind of only 10% of podcasts do video. So I was like, I have to do video and just kind of elevate it a little bit. Plus, I know cameras, so I have an advantage.
Exactly. And I think the video, it does add to it.
You want to just pause the music on my phone? There we go.
It does add to it.
Yeah.
But no, I just from listening to enough podcasts during the day, although they've been very good, I just stopped listening to them because I'm like, I can't understand what you're saying. And there's always a guy on a phone on the other side of the country. So I get, like, you're not doing that. You're in-house, so to speak. But
yeah, I'll have to make a portable version because there is a lot of people in Toronto I want to interview.
I bet.
I don't think they'll come out here. Some of them might.
Yep.
I would have to make it worth their while. But I can't do the computer thing because I don't know what audio they have.
Yeah.
Could be terrible. They could just be
Exactly.
using a laptop.
Absolutely.
And I don't know. Like if Mike Tyson was like, hey, we should do a podcast, like I'd probably do it. From LA or wherever the hell he is, you know what I mean?
I'd probably take that interview.
But I'd be like, can you fly here though? That'd be better. Yeah. There's one particular podcast that kind of works, but I feel like they probably have some post-production sound people like really tweaking it. But there's only so much you can do. Like
Right.
if it's garbage coming in, you can just kind of make it less garbage coming out.
Right.
Still going to be garbage.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be clean coming in. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
If you're in that business, you got to do it right.
Yeah, and I didn't really know anything about sound except for for video, like lav mics and things like that, but not a soundboard. I've never worked with a soundboard or anything. So yeah.
I have.
Have you?
I have.
Oh.
I meant to tell you that because Zamnik got all the attention for announcing that he was a radio guy at
radio?
one point. Well, I was a DJ at one point.
Oh, okay.
It's a true story, man.
Okay.
It's a true story. Way back when. Yeah, that's before I went to school in South Carolina. I used to DJ at the hotel.
No way.
I did, man.
You used it at the Turkey Point Hotel.
I did, yeah. And I did weddings.
Holy shit.
I did a couple proms. I did the Valley Heights prom one year.
Was this pre-digital? Like what were you using to?
Well, when I started with tapes, like cassettes.
Okay,
yeah. I did so at different times, right? But like the golf club and the curling club in Simcoe, I'm a Simcoe boy. And like they used to have events like once a month, right? And those events were dinner and a dance.
Yeah.
And I had the contract to DJ those. And I was young. Like I'm maybe 17, 18, right? And Yeah, we just that kind of blossomed into weddings. Did a ton of weddings, and then proms, and then the hotel came knocking.
That's pretty cool.
And yeah, I'll never forget it. It was my first time DJing in the hotel was a lot different than anything else.
Yeah.
Because I'm used to playing like Elton John at weddings, and get these big bikers at the hotel saying like, "Where's the Motley Crue, man? Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing?" It was a totally different thing. But no, it was good. I did that for a long time, and that was like I heard your other guest Jordan there, which was a great interview, talking about all like the restrictions he has now and legalities behind it. We never had that. Like,
Wasn't
it
a thing back then. The licensing music.
Nobody checked in on
Yeah.
that. No, it was totally
Like,
different.
like even if you have a restaurant and you're playing music in the restaurant, like you have to pay into the, I don't know what it's called, but it gives the artist
heard of
a
that,
portion of it.
Right.
Because technically you're profiting. Like your business is making money and you're using the music to help the business make money,
Yeah.
I guess.
I
So
mean,
I get it.
Weird bunch of kids in Norfolk, like just, it was a great gig.
Yeah.
Made a ton of money.
Nice.
Yeah, it was awesome for having fun, right? Like,
Yeah.
it was quite enjoyable. But yeah,
How long did you do it for?
I'm going to say it had to have been 2 or 3 years. It had to have been. Yeah, it had to have been. It was a while. And then, like I said, when I went away to school, I sold all my stuff and I just never did a dance again, right? So.
Did you ever think this is what I want to do
DJ?
while you were doing it? Like, this is it?
Yeah, I probably had that thought because it was a lot of fun, but it was like, it's a commitment. Like Saturday nights, right?
Well,
Like
my
you're-
thinking is like either you make it big or if you kind of just, you can make a living by house, but
Correct.
it's a rough life. Like it's weekends, it's night.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's party scene. You're probably going to be drinking.
All the time.
Can you do that into your 40s and 50s like that lifestyle?
Well, exactly. You just hit on something right there because when you're younger, I mean, you're dynamic. You're wanting to get out. You want that atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
But
And you can drink every weekend.
yes,
in
exactly.
your
And
20s.
you're doing it for free because the bar's always open because you're doing a wedding.
Yeah.
So it was like, and I think at one point we even had that written into the contract, like we get free drinks. For free,
Yeah,
right?
you
Like
gotta.
it was just like, so yeah, that was good times. But yeah, like I guess as much as we don't want to admit it, we all grow up, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, Saturday nights now it's like, I mean, I'm at home.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Or at the sandbar.
Oh, the sandbar, yeah.
My home away from home.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the DJ thing was a fun thing that I almost forget about that part of my life. It was so long ago, right? But I heard Zanuck talking about it. I'm like, I got to bring that up too.
Well, I guess he did it during school. I didn't know.
Yes,
I had
yes,
no idea.
yes.
He's a pretty smooth talker, so he said he wanted to do it to just kind of get better at speaking. And
Yeah, I heard
things like
that.
that, so.
It was very. Dusty has a great story.
Yeah.
And I don't know much of it until I heard the
I mean,
podcast.
I know him pretty well. We're good friends, but I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I wasn't around then either, but when he was at school. But I guess like his friends would get together here. They'd listen to it.
He's an interesting guy.
He's very interesting.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Hustler.
Hustler. That's exactly
Hustler.
right. He is.
So then you started mountain biking pretty young. I was reading you were 12?
Well, yeah. So it wasn't mountain biking; it was BMX.
BMX.
Yeah,
And then you did
so-
a little bit of cross country.
I did. That came
Yeah.
much later in life. So BMX, was a kid, and
What's the difference for people listening if they don't know anything between BMX and mountain biking? I
Yeah.
just think of the bars coming out of the bikes.
yeah. So exactly. So BMX, when I started, was in the early '80s, like the original
Yeah.
BMX, and so it was much different than what we kind of call BMX now. What the X Games have kind of made, right? So
They're doing flips and grinding poles.
yeah, it's more
and-
freestyle and tricks, right? And they and that's made for TV stuff. That's very exciting, and it's been quite successful for that brand. But when I was doing it, it was racing.
Okay.
And BMX is bicycle motocross, so it was basically motocross on a bicycle. And simplest terms.
Going off the rant. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, start gate, 8 guys head to head
Yeah.
on out of the gate, and the race would be, I don't know, 45 seconds, right? Like there was no laps. It was never an endurance event, so to speak. It was a race. And yeah, they had a track in Port Dover. A guy by the name of Pat Allen started it. And I started racing there on weekends and just absolutely loved it. My brother raced as well. And my dad really liked it too, because he used to race motocross back in the day. So he kind of got into it. And I think, I mean, they say support is everything, right? And if your parents support what you're doing, it means the world. And my dad certainly did with that. And so we that kind of turned into going to different tracks. We would go to Niagara Falls, New York on Friday nights. We'd race Stony Creek on Saturdays. And there was another track on Sundays, but we were pretty dedicated to it. And then even in the winter, like at that point, the sport was so big, like they actually had an indoor track at some
really?
warehouse in Stony Creek.
Oh, really?
And we'd go up there and race indoors. Yeah. All winter. Yeah. It was wild. And then high school came and, as I like to tell the story, like everybody was playing hockey, right? Like it's a hockey country. It's a
That's what I was
it's a
doing.
hockey
Yeah.
community, right? And so like the girls didn't want to talk to some guy riding a bike, so I wanted to get back in hockey, and I did, and I loved it, and I never thought about cycling again. It just was a kind of something that I left behind, right? But then after I graduated university and came back home, I totally fell back into it just by accident. It was, and then the rest is kind of history, as they say. But yeah, I was.
Oh, and then you dominated.
I had a good run. Yeah, it was a good ride. Yeah, it was crazy how it all happened. It really is. I mean, like just coming from this area too, that really doesn't have a lot of elevation, Ontario in general, right? But I mean, we did have a scene. Ontario had a race scene, and lots of guys were dedicated to it, mostly in the cross country discipline, which is where I started. Getting back to your question.
Oh, you started in cross country.
I did, yeah,
Okay.
because that was kind of so. Again, if we go back to the beginning, like when I got involved, I came home from university, and my buddy was working at Harrington Sports at the time, and he said, "What are you doing tonight?" And I said, "I don't know. What are you doing?" He said, "Well, we're going to Turkey Point to ride the trails." There was trails back then in Turkey Point. They weren't anything compared to what they are now, but
Little rough.
yeah, a little rough. And I said, "Well, I don't know. What are you riding?" He said, "Well, we're riding mountain bikes." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know. It sounds all right." And he goes, "Well, we're going to the sandbar for wings and beer after." I said,
I'm in.
I suppose I could show up to that. So I went down and I had I was on the bike for maybe 20 minutes, and it was magical. Like I just was transformed back to my childhood immediately. It was so free. Like it was just so incredible. And like just the way the tires were on the dirt, and your heart rate's redlining off the charts. So there was that exhilaration behind it, and you're laughing like hell with all the other guys. And it was just a very, very poignant moment for me.
What I really like about high intensity sports is there's no time to think about your life or what's happening tomorrow.
Exactly.
You're only thinking about what's in front of you.
Yeah.
And it's like almost like this inner peace.
Big time.
Yeah.
You are so dialed in to that
So
moment.
dialed in, yeah.
And you have to be, right? Or especially with that sport, you can't be looking around
Thinking
enjoying
about dinner.
No,
Yeah.
you're gonna get bit.
Well, maybe
right?
wings, but
Thinking about that
The
beer.
motivation. Yeah.
don't wipe out.
Yeah, exactly.
The faster I get through this trail, the faster I get a beer in me.
Exactly. Well, so anyway, like that's kind of like the discipline that we had here, right? Was going out on that 2-hour ride is cross country in a nutshell, right? It's an endurance event. It's a lap event. Like this was before it was in the Olympics, of course. Now that it's in the Olympics, that's what it is. It's a marked course.
Which part is it downhill?
No, cross country is
Cross-country.
in the Olympics.
Okay.
Downhill makes so much sense to put in the Olympics. It would be so exciting. I really believe that. But for whatever reason, it hasn't bit. I don't know why, but it is what it is. It's too bad because now with technology, I feel like they're bringing the sport to, mainstream a little bit better. It's very hard to do. You're on a 2-kilometer racetrack.
How do you film that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You need like 30 cameras, right?
But now
drones.
there's GoPros
Yes.
and there's drones and there's the internet and streaming.
That's
so,
right.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
right. Then the drone footage from the World Cup series now, it's amazing what the thing's following the rider through like the gnarliest section on this mountain.
Yeah, FPV.
Yes, it's incredible.
My brother flies those.
Is that right?
Yeah.
It's amazing stuff. Like I just can't get over it. But I feel like that is really going to be the push for our sport, right? Is bringing it to that user, that guy on the couch or whatever, right? I don't think we'd ever have a big network deal like, one of the big leagues do, of course. But it's a fun sport, and I can't believe it's never bit more. It just skiing. Like I love to watch downhill skiing just because there are a lot of similarities between the two. But it's nowhere near as exciting as downhill mountain biking. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
I've seen videos of people doing it at night with headlamps on.
Oh, I've seen people, I'll like leave the spa some nights and I'll see a trail of headlamps going through the trails. I'm like, that's nuts.
Yeah, that's what's going on this time of year because of the time change, obviously, right?
Yeah.
I would
Don't
die.
really have a choice.
I wouldn't make it.
Well, it's different. It's not. You're going at probably a third of the speed because it's dark.
If you're responsible.
You don't want to hit a
This
tree.
clip I saw, this guy was just
Ripping.
Yeah, well, I mean,
BC.
You get to that level.
downhill.
mountain biking at night for me has changed over the years with age. That's because I can't see anything anymore. I have a lot of problem with night vision.
Oh, no.
And so when I have the spotlights on, I like after 40 minutes, I start to get a headache. I don't know, just because you're so fixated on that light.
Yeah,
and
your
that's-
tunnel vision almost.
yeah.
Like you can't see anything else besides.
Yeah, so like tonight, it's our Tuesday night ride group, and I might go out. I might not, but I prefer to ride during the day this time of year.
Me too.
Night riding's tough for me. Yeah, exactly.
I'm just casual, maybe a couple times a year.
Yeah.
I've got a mountain bike. It's here, but yeah, it's just not an avid thing for me. I like team sports.
Yep.
I fill my summer with team sports, and then it's like whatever's left is there's not much left free time. So
You can only do one thing, right? Like when I picked up mountain biking, I dropped everything else. I didn't.
you have to. Well, to
You
get
have
to your level, you have to obsess.
You have to, and you just, like golf, hockey, like that's all gone. I haven't played golf in forever, and I it's too bad because I really, I did enjoy golf at one point, but it's just you can't do it all. And now with the family and the kids, and
Golf's time
they're
consuming.
playing ball, and yeah, golf's very time, especially if you want to be.
Like a half
decent at
day,
it.
full day thing sometimes. Yeah.
Well, in South Carolina, like I had a buddy on the golf team, and he said, I kept begging him to give me lessons, right? Because I was really into golf back then. Living in South Carolina and wanted to be better. And he's like, yeah, we'll go. I kept bugging him. Yeah, we'll go. Well, one day he got tired of listening to me. He goes, okay, let's go to the driving range. Stop at the gas station. You're buying me a pack of smokes and a 6-pack of Busch Light. And I'm like, all right, tall boys. Okay. So we get there, and he grabs a chair off the clubhouse and drags it out to the driving range. And we sit down, and he says, all right, go ahead, start hitting balls. And he cracks a beer and lights up a smoke. And I hit like 3, and I turn back at him. He's like, what? Just keep going. I'm like, all right. So I kept hitting balls. And I went through the whole basket. And I looked at him, and I'm like, so, like, what? Like, I was kind of hoping for more advice. Like, a little instruction would have been nice. Like, what's going on? And he's like, oh, yeah, well, with your swing, like, I don't know. You're going to be, like, shooting 45. If you're under 45 on a round of 9, like, you've had a great round. Like, let's get out of here. And I'm like, that's all you're going to tell me? And he says, well, there's no point. You're like, your swing's horrible.
Oh,
like,
shit.
oh, my God, really? Like,
That's why I'm here.
I said, that's why I'm here. Can I improve it? And he said, no, this is a natural ability thing, and you don't have that. I'm like, oh my God, okay. So I just always kind of remember that. And I'm like, well, I guess if I give up golf to start mountain biking, it's not the end of the world. It wasn't my calling anyway, apparently. But yeah, so anyway, I just got into that, and it had my full attention, right? So
What were you doing in South Carolina? You
I
graduated
went to school there. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
What were you taking?
Exercise science.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a student trainer actually. for
Okay.
all the teams. Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
It was
So it's-
awesome. Yeah.
It's all connected, kind of goes with mountain biking a little bit, I would say. Your body and
It did.
yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, because I spent a lot of time with athletes, right? Because I was a trainer. I didn't realize this until much later in life, but because when you're in the pocket of doing something, you're kind of in that pocket and you're focused on that, right? But years later, when I reflected on my roadmap to where I am, I was like, yeah, man, like I learned a lot from those college athletes back in the day, right? Like just how to train, how to focus, like how to deal with pressure, because I was always on the bench dealing with these guys, right? And girls.
discipline.
Yeah, discipline and all, it all kind of went to, and really what helped me was because I was a third party in a sense, right? When you hear collegiate coaches at that level speak to their athletes, it's all about motivation. It's all about being
mind game.
positive, exactly, and getting the best out of that athlete. And I think that I had that conversation with myself years later, just before I was getting in a start gate to blast down a mountain, right? And it helped me kind of balance things, right? So
Yeah.
it was good. It was something that I never really clued into until years after I was done racing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When was your first big downhill race where you were a little nervous?
Probably my first one.
Was this after school? Or
Yeah. So
Yeah.
again, I came home from school
Yeah.
in '96, hooked up with my buddy, started riding. And there was a couple of young guys that worked at the store that I was riding with. And they said, you ever think about racing? And I'm like, well, I did race BMX when I was a kid. Maybe I don't know. It's kind of cool to me. Yeah. And the idea kind of grew on me. And so I ended up going to a race, and I fell in love immediately. Again, just I think that competition, and I don't know, it gives you a purpose to ride too, right? Like it gives you a purpose to go out and ride in the rain and push yourself.
Yeah, and
through
you're
all
going
this.
to like a destination as well.
Yes,
so-
you have a goal, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just really picked up on that and keyed into it, and I liked it. And so cross country, I never really got too nervous because it's all about the training. Like cross country, like, I mean, for lack of better say, you're the best exerciser, right? If you put your homework in, you're going to do well, right? I mean, there is some technical ability, especially at the Olympic level, obviously, but at the level that I was racing at, like it was whoever rode the most and put themselves,
Who worked harder.
Yes, whoever put themselves through the most punishment is going to excel, right? And that's what I was all about at that time. And the downhill thing was a lucky accident that I kind of fell into. I was at a race pre-riding a track with a good friend of mine that got me into racing, Tim Oliver. And I said, what are those guys doing? And he goes, well, that's the downhill guys. And I'm like, what's downhill? And he explained it to me. And I said, wow, I think I'd like that. Like it seems way more up my alley because of that technical, like I've never been a great athlete from the exercise. I'm not built, like I'm not 6'3", lean and mean, right? Like, but I could ride a bike from a skill perspective.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, why don't you just try this? So I borrowed a bike actually. And my first downhill race was on a borrowed bike and I got third. So I'm like, what the hell? Like maybe I got something.
Maybe
there,
I'm good
right?
at this.
And I
yeah.
had a boatload of fun. And so it just kind of, there's a picture, I've got a picture, like downhill, like everybody's wearing armor and they're all dressed up with protective gear, right? And here I am in a long sleeve t-shirt. My knees are exposed in shorts. Like I remember riding the lift up to the top of the hill for practice. And there was a guy next to me and he goes, like, where's your gear? I said, well, it's my first race. I'm just trying it out to see if I like it. And he's like, oh, you could tell like he was not very hopeful for me.
No.
But whatever. I persevered and it was,
As long as you don't wipe out, you'll be fine.
that exactly. Well, yeah, you don't lay it down. You're good,
Extra
right?
motivation to not
But absolutely.
hit a tree.
Absolutely. And I don't know. I just had a blast that first race and I'm like, okay, this is fun. So I think I did another one. I borrowed the bike, and
Where was this?
my first race was in Mansfield, Ontario, and my second one was in Kelso, Glen Eden ski area.
Okay.
Yeah, and Ontario Cup races,
Okay.
and racing my age category, and just had a blast doing it. And I think that year I said, okay, this will be the last year I raced cross country, which was 2000. 2001, I bought a downhill specific bike and went into downhill, and that was it. 2003, I turned pro. That was my first year racing pro.
And how do you become pro? What's the qualifications? Do you have to?
Well, good question. It's basically like on a point system.
Okay.
You have enough wins, but
Okay.
I was a little different because I was over the age of 30 at that point, and I mean, most of these guys, like I never really had anywhere to go after that, but I won in 2002. It was my perfect season. I won every race that I
was
went
reading
in.
about that.
Yeah, it was like
Like first place every race.
Six
first
times.
place. Yeah, six in the old
Whoa,
Cup
holy
series,
shit.
in the Ontario Cup series. Yeah, and I'm very proud of that because like there's so many. It's not just about winning, but in our sport, there's so many things that can go wrong. It's not just about crashing, but mechanicals, right? You can get a flat tire, and we're separated by seconds, right?
Yeah.
Like every second.
It's like
counts.
racing. You can have a good driver, but if the engine fails,
That's it.
the drivers, what are you gonna do?
That's it. So I got through all that unscathed without crashing or mechanicals, and had it all, right? So it was a great run, great year, and I loved it. And the next year I wanted to race professional. I wanted to get that license, that elite license, right? But they weren't going to give it to me. The OCA wasn't going to give it to me. The Ontario Cycling Association, they didn't. The guy that I had the conversation with said, well, we don't really do that for older riders. Like it's more of a younger rider thing because that's, we groom them and they go on to bigger and better things. And it makes a lot of sense. It really does. But my point to him was, look, like I worked for this very hard. It's just, I know it's a personal goal and you guys don't need to satisfy my personal goal, but I'm asking, like, I won every race. Like I've got nowhere to go.
There's
Yeah.
proof.
Like, just, I'm not going to be a World Cup threat. Like, just let me race a national at the pro level, right?
It's almost
That's-
unfair to let you just keep dominating everyone else
Well,
in that
I
one. It's like,
call it
oh,
a
fucking,
sandbagger
here's
and all
Paul
that,
now.
right?
Fucking,
And- Yeah. So whatever. It was all good. And so I was allowed to race the elite Ontario series. And I think I did race one or two Canada Cups at elite, but though my national wins didn't come in those. They came in my age category. The two national wins that I did get.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm so removed from that world. I don't know anything about different. It's almost like soccer to me. There's all these different pools of players and then they meet and
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, racing's a funny thing, right?
Because there's all provincials, I would assume, except for like maybe Saskatchewan, because there's not really.
Yeah,
Is there?
there was a guy from Saskatchewan.
Really?
I'm trying to remember his name now.
Because
Billick.
like, where would he practice?
Jamie Billick. I think he might have been Manitoba.
Okay.
I don't know. But there's some guy. Yeah, I mean,
But every province kind of has their own pool of tournaments. Is that how that works?
correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Provincial series.
Provincial series.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I assume Quebec would be quite good.
Yeah. So the national level guys that are mostly excelling are not always, but primarily from Quebec and BC.
BC, yeah.
BC is certainly produces the best riders in our sport. I think. I mean, although in my time we had there was a really fast guy from Quebec that really was. He was impressive to watch because he actually got onto the world stage and did quite well with that. He was on a international big team with a guy named Sam Hill now, who like is a legend in the sport, and Mathieu was on that team with him. I think he got hurt. It didn't really work out great for him at that level, but the fact that he made it there, like, it's incredible, man, that happened. Like it really is.
Yeah.
And at that point, like it was such a big thing in America. It could have been bigger, but it was like it's predominantly a Euro sport. Like it's huge in France, Australia, Italy, mountainous areas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, to do what Mathieu did in that level, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was good, yeah.
And you said on a team, are they all competing individually?
Yeah.
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 But there's a group that goes that represents Canada and United States and where else?
less of the country origin, more of
Okay.
the sponsor.
Oh, okay.
So like Team Santa Cruz,
I
Team Rocky
see.
Mountain,
I see.
Team Giant.
Team Red Bull or whatever.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, I understand now.
It's your industry sponsor, right? Whoever owns the team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's all pushed by money, right? Just like every other sport is. There was a lot of money in the sport in the mid '90s. I don't know if you guys would remember Sean Palmer, but he brought a lot of attention to the sport. He won like the X Games snowboard thing like a million times, but
Okay.
he transitioned into mountain biking and then motocross. He actually made a 250 main in Supercross at one point. Like the guy was phenomenal at anything he did. But anyway, he brought a lot of notoriety to the sport and kind of cast it on a big stage on this side of the pond, and that brought big sponsors like Mountain Dew kind of got involved, and kind of the first time that outside the industry sponsors took notice, right? And it was cruising along really well there. Like when I raced it was an old series called the Norba National Series in the U.S. They had big time sponsors, GM trucks. They had remember Sobe. They made like
Energy drink?
Yeah. It was like the first version of like a Monster. It was before Monster, but
I think so.
it was a Sobe Cannondale team, I think it was. And anyway, yeah, it was. They had all this support and things were cruising along well. And then I don't know, just a guy named Lance Armstrong showed up, and that was the end of mountain biking forever.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to get on a road bike.
Tour de
and,
France.
Yeah, man, and I get it. Those were pretty exciting years watching Lance do what he did. But yeah, so mountain biking kind of declined, and it's coming back now. I mean, again, it's such a hard sport to deliver to the fan, but I mean, now with bike technology too, like there's a new discipline that kind of evolved called enduro racing, which is kind of in between cross country and downhill without getting too confusing. But downhill in Ontario is pretty much dead now. We don't even have lift access mountains anymore, or resorts. Like Blue Mountain used to run a lift for us, and
They won't anymore?
No, I don't. I just don't think it was profitable. In a nutshell, I think there might have been other reasons.
There's not
but
enough.
There's just not enough guys doing it, right? And I think enduro kind of killed downhill it's just an opinion, of course, but I think it kind of had a lot to do with killing the sport of downhill in Ontario. There's still guys that do it, but the enduro bikes are just so well built now, like bikes in general now, like compared to what we were racing on in early 2000s.
Were there different styles back then, or was it just one style of bike?
No, there was
Okay.
a downhill specific bike,
Okay.
a cross country specific bike.
Because I'm not well educated, but I know there's differences. There's like a hardtail,
Yep.
and then there's
Full
one with a gap.
suspension.
Yeah, suspension. So there's different types.
Yeah, and basically like what differentiates the two, there's a lot of things, but really the nutshell is like the amount of suspension travel that you have on these bikes. There's other things like the angles and the geometry of the frame. All these.
Were there disc brake back then?
Yeah, they just
Okay.
came out.
Okay,
Yeah.
and like fluid brakes.
So my first year that I raced, I had rim brakes,
Okay.
and like then the push was on these hydraulic disc. Like what an advancement! Unbelievable. Same consistency in all conditions.
Yeah.
Incredible, right? Incredible
Yeah.
advancement, and it's like the same in any sport, but technology really pushed our sport, and continues to do so.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where they're going to go now. Like the bikes are just so awesome now. So
What's your
Awesome.
preference for bikes? Like obviously you have a bunch to rent. What do you prefer? What's your preference style wise?
well, right now it's my e-bike. I'm
Oh, nice. You got an e-bike?
Well, I went over to the dark side. Yeah,
Paul, you've paid your dues.
That's fair. Yeah.
You're like a provincial national champion. Like you can ride an e-bike.
Kind
It's
of
okay.
how I rationalize it.
It's fine. Yeah.
You know, I'm going to be honest with you. So I was skeptical and I didn't get it. I know they were coming out and I'm like, okay, maybe I get it. If I lived in Kamloops, I'd probably buy one.
So you
You
can
know,
ride up the mountain.
You got a lot
and-
of vertical out
Yeah.
there, right? But in Turkey Point, like in Norfolk, I mean, no, that doesn't make sense. And then I got on one and I rode my home trails and I was like, oh,
This thing's a whip.
this is like, and like, to be fair, like it's an assist, right? It's not. So this is important to understand because people think that I'm buzzing around on a dirt bike essentially out there. And I'm not. Like I still have to pedal the bike. It just helps assist me, right?
If you're
But-
going up a hill, it'll be
Correct.
half the strength or something.
Correct. Yeah. And you can dial in the amount of assist that the motor delivers,
Yeah.
right?
So
So
if you want more of a workout that day,
correct. Exactly.
yeah, or if
exactly.
you're a bit sore, just
Yeah. Or if you want to go faster.
okay. Yep.
So that's kind of where it clicked for me. Like now on that assist bike, for the first time in years, like I'm generating massive amounts of speed, massive amounts of power again. And like I don't have the strength anymore because I'm not 25,
You
I'm
lose
not
it.
30
Yeah.
anymore, but now I do, but you never lose the skill, right? The skill's still there pretty much. And so now I've got the power back. I'm having so much fun again on this thing. Like
that's
I'm
great.
flying out there.
love that.
I'm doubling sections that I haven't been able to do in years.
That's awesome.
I'm drifting it. Like I feel like it's made me a better rider now. Because if you think about it, I'm training at speed every ride now. And not only that, I can ride more frequently because I don't have to recover anymore. Right. And my heart rate, it's just a fallacy that guys that don't believe in these things tell you. My heart rate still gets jacked. I'm telling you, like I can show you my Garmin. I'm still in that zone all the
Oh,
time.
just the adrenaline, I'm sure. Like
think-
you're
and
going
just-
that much faster.
Also balancing your body on the bike.
yeah,
Like that's a workout.
true. So I feel like my upper body's more engaged now, and those bikes are heavy too, right? Because
Yeah.
the motor and the battery. So you're pulling that bike in a lot more. You're whipping it around.
Like your
So it's
whole
a-
body's engaged while
Absolutely.
you're riding.
Yeah. It's
top
a
to bottom.
It's a different workout than being on an analog or an acoustic bike.
Yeah.
Choose your title. I do still like those. I heard an interesting podcast, a guy talking about it the other day, and he said he loves e-bikes, but he hates them and he hates where they're going because he says they're just so awesome. They're so fun. He says, I don't like in 10 years, nobody's going to be on these.
It's like going
analog
from
bikes.
an arcade to, an Xbox in your house.
Yeah.
It just changes it.
Big time. And I don't know if I think it'll be that. I don't agree with it being that drastic, but I could certainly see acoustic bikes becoming a minority.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I guess I could relate it to cameras, film to digital. There's film
Right.
cameras behind you there. If you really love it, I feel like you'll have both probably.
Of course.
Yeah.
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 And there's always a place for both,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I mean, personally, I just have so much fun on that assisted bike. Like it's
What's the brand? What
Rocky Mountain.
Rocky Mountain.
Yeah. So I'm
Hey, Rocky Mountain, you want to sponsor this episode?
That's a great call.
Did you hear
actually.
all this great stuff he's saying about your bike?
Yeah, so I'm actually a dealer. Full disclosure with that, and I've been with them for a number of years now, and yeah, they're doing some exciting stuff. I'm
Well,
quite
and
happy
they've
with them.
gotten, they were external. Now there's some that are internal and they're so hidden. You can tell because they're a bit thicker around the middle
Yep.
part.
Yep.
But besides that, like
Yeah.
if someone just kind of goes by, you're not really sure.
No, and they're getting better. They're getting
Yeah.
sleeker. Like we've got a new one out that just launched a few weeks ago. It's called the Instinct SL. SL for super light. So
there you go.
all our assisted bikes are called the Power Play. Canadian company, Rocky Mountain. So we base everything off of hockey terms. So it's called the Power Play. And the SL is the super light version now. So they shaved pretty much 10 pounds off the traditional
That's wild.
Instinct. Like it's down to 40 pounds almost.
Wow.
I mean,
Is it less
like I
of a
raced
motor
downhill
then?
bikes that weighed more than that, right? Sorry, what was that, Drew?
Was it like less? Is it less of a motor then?
It is.
SL?
So they've cut down from 740 watts to like 5 and change, but they also kind of shorten that battery up quite a bit.
Okay.
So that you're not going to get the battery strength or life. But from what they tell me, I haven't been on one yet. Mine comes in next week. But they tell me that it's all relative because of the strength to weight ratio that electric is. I don't know. I guess it's the same with electric.
Because it's not moving as
transport.
much weight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it
Exactly.
evens out.
Yes.
Well, you're only going to know when you try it. So,
Exactly. And I'm looking forward to that quite a bit.
yeah.
Yeah, they're fun machines. I mean, Rocky even brought out a Power Play Blizzard, which is our fat bike, last year, and I kind of thought you guys are reaching here a little bit on that. And then I got on one, and I'm like, oh, this actually makes more sense than a standard assisted bike.
What's a fat bike for those listening? Because I didn't know when I first discovered them.
Well, good question, because it's
Yeah.
relatively new. They've been around, I don't know, 10 years or something like that. It's a specific bike made for snow is what it was designed for, to ride in the winter on snow, right? So
Yeah.
we can stud the tires if we need to.
And they're huge.
They're huge. They're
Yeah.
5 inches wide and they float essentially, right?
Yeah.
To me, they're not much fun except in snow. Truth be told, but it again, like, it works well for what it is designed to do. You know, there was a lot of talk when they came out that this is just a fad, but they've been around, and you know what?
It sounds
it works
exhausting
here.
to me.
Well, so you're onto something, because that's what I'm getting back to my point. Like, it makes more sense to have them assisted, because when I got on it last year, like, now I'm ripping in the snow, like flying through snow, and primarily
Like James Bond getting chased through
like
the
you're
mountains.
just lying out there, and it's so fun again, because
That's sweet.
like, my history with fat biking is a love-hate relationship almost, because when you get that first snowfall in December or whatever, it's so fun to get out there, because we all love snow, right? Like, who doesn't? It's that first snowfall. But then by February, I'm like, I just want to get back on dirt. Like, I've had enough of winter. But that's me in general. Like, I'm ready to go to Florida too, right? Like, I've had enough of winter. So it is what it is. But now with this assist bike, no, man, I'm crushing it, like, all the time out. And you stud the tires, things like a buzzsaw out there, like, you're tons of grip, and you're just ripping through things. And when you get, like, the thing with fat biking around here is our conditions are so inconsistent, right? You know, we get beautiful snow, and then 3 days later it rains.
Yeah. And it's just mud.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it freezes again. And so
Yeah.
you got ice under snow. And we do have the Turkey Point Mountain Bike Club, which I want to talk about.
Yeah.
You know, they have a grooming machine that goes out and grooms the trails.
Oh, really?
Which is, yeah, it's awesome. But again, like, we get, it sets up like beautiful conditions, but then it turns to mush because of our weather patterns, right? So when you're riding in very, very wet snow, the snow sticks to the bike, it sticks to the wheels.
Which is Ontario for the most part, because I've had
Exactly.
people come from out west and they're like, it's so different here. Like, the cold goes through your coat. And I'm like, yeah, it's all the
does.
lakes.
Yeah.
It's all the like, because I lived in Banff for a year, and the cold is just different. It's dry. It's more extreme. You know, we're hitting minus 60 sometimes, but it's not the same. Like, as long as
That's
you're covered, but
Yep.
still the snow, fluffier, better to snowboard in. Like, here, you're looking at slush and ice. So
Absolutely.
he does this. All right, come here. Let's go in the tree.
It's aggressive.
He's very aggressive.
He likes attention.
He's a bit of an attention horse. So if I'm not paying attention to him, specifically me, he won't touch you, won't touch True,
Yeah.
unless you like provoke
Here he
him.
comes.
But he's coming for me. Yeah, different winters here, so the snow is very different. I find just
is.
living there and coming back here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of killed my love for winter a bit.
It's a
Because
1,000% right.
You know, I was working at Lake Louise. The hills are like 20-minute runs, and then I come back and go to Blue. It's wind blown. It's
Yeah.
mostly ice. It takes 5-10 minutes,
Yeah.
and I lost my love for it.
Yeah.
And people told me that they're like, it's going to ruin it for you, and I said, no, I would never stop. No, they were right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's winters here are tough. I mean, they're mild.
Yeah.
Which is nice. I'm not shoveling the driveway,
Yeah,
but man, it's long. Like, I'm good until like late January. And then February, man, it feels like February is like 8 months long. Like I struggle to get through February. It's crazy.
February's a rough one, and that's like my birthday month too. And I always got depressed as a kid because all the kids had like birthdays in the summer, and they can have pool parties and go skateboarding and this guy. And I always got like the dreary, gray, slushy month.
Yeah, me too. I'm January.
You January,
late
yeah.
January, yeah.
So
It's it is what it is. I mean, the funny thing is, like, I'm just making fun of it. Like, February is tough to get through, but you can be on our trails in Turkey Point riding on dirt by St. Patrick's Day every year. Every year you can sit
with
your
a
watch
regular
together.
bike.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with a standard regular bike again. It's very rare that we're not.
And is there regulations around when you can go so you don't ruin the trails? Like if you do go in February and it's just muck?
That's a great question. So anywhere else in the province there is, because most of the province is made up with clay soil, right? So clay soil has an erosion issue. It also has a rut issue, right? You rut it up and becomes, you can be very hard on the trail, right? But in Turkey Point, like what we lack in elevation and rock, because I love riding rocks. We get that sandy soil, which drains very, very well, and we don't have an erosion problem. It just dries out like a beach. And the trail kind of morphs throughout the year, right? Like it'll dry out in July and be like a beach in some parts. But then now, like right now is the best time of year to ride in Turkey Point.
Oh,
Like
really?
it firms up and it's just awesome.
I guess the cold, it'll
the
the ground gets harder.
correct. Yeah.
okay.
And like just we're getting more rain, right? There's more moisture and it just kind of helps hold that trail together a little bit more, and you're getting better grip. Like I'm changing tires throughout the year, right? Like it's, even though we don't have the rock, but you have to go with, more of an aggressive tread pattern in that summer months because you're digging, you're trying to find grip out there, right?
It's pretty sandy.
It's very sandy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for agriculture.
Good for tobacco.
Good for tobacco. Good for wine.
Good for wine.
Yep.
Yep. Not so good for mountain biking.
No.
So that's okay. Hey, when it rains, you can go out and ride and you're no problem. There's a place in Kitchener-Waterloo called Hydrocut. Like they have to shut their trails down when it rains, right? Because of this erosion. And they're all clay, right?
Yeah.
But
Give and take,
yeah, exactly. And I mean, we're fortunate that we don't have that. We're unfortunate that we don't have vertical. We don't have a mountain. Like I like to say, we've got 90 kilometers of trails now without 90 kilometers of mountain bike trails
That's
without
amazing.
a mountain. Well, it's insane.
What was the kilometers when you were kind of younger and starting in Turkey Point? Probably wasn't nearly that.
Oh, no, not at all. Well, we didn't have, like, we were riding, I mean, we called them fire trails, like, because like, I said, why do we call them fire trails? And somebody said, well, they cut like these double track wide trails, basically set out on a grid pattern all through Turkey Point in case there was a fire. They can get a truck in there
Oh, shit.
to extinguish the fire. I don't know if that's exactly why or
Makes
if
sense.
there's any merit to that, but
Yeah.
I know like they, like a lot of those forests in there are like University of Guelph does a bunch of research back there. They've got a station. So maybe it was just for transportation,
Yeah, possible.
accessibility issues, right? Reasons. But I don't know. When I started, we were riding those. Me and a couple of guys started to build some single track stuff. And I don't know, we had maybe, I'm going to say 15 to 20K in the early 2000s, if that. And then just like mountain biking in general around here kind of caught fire and grew. And, of course, then the club was incepted in 2012, I think it was. And, the first year we had 36 guys, 36
really?
members. Yeah. And now we've got 650 or something. Like it's nuts.
Really?
It's nuts, man. And in the flattest part of Ontario almost, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's an incredible story. It's amazing.
Although I brought a cousin out here one summer who's really into mountain biking, never been out here, and he was just astounded by the trails.
He was,
like
eh?
he wanted to come back the next week, and I was like, I'm sorry, man, I'm busy, but you should go. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, he
Exactly.
loved it. Loved it.
That's awesome. I love hearing those stories, right? Because I think we're so well known in the mountain bike community. Like we have, I ran into a guy from Quebec out there one time. It was early season, and I said, "What? Like, why would you come down here from Quebec to ride?" He said, "Well, I'm still skiing at home. Like, there's still snow on the trails. There's still snow on the mountain.
That's wild.
Like, I want to ride my bike. I'm tired of skiing."
Yeah.
Like, and it was so opposite back when I was racing. Like, we would drive to Quebec to train, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
now it's hard to get your head around. But again, we're always, pretty much the first place you can ride in the province in the springtime, right? Because we're always, we rarely get snow.
Did you hear that, everybody?
Yeah.
Join the mountain bike club. Come on here.
Well, so that's kind of my thing. Like, we're so well known in the mountain bike community, but we're not well known locally.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Like, I want to get the local population.
Oh, well, for
Like,
people, let's
that's
talk
it.
about it.
Absolutely, man.
How did this mountain bike club come about?
Well, again, I think there was just a bunch of us that were riding out there. And when I say a bunch of us, I want to say like 15 people. And you kind of got to know each other because it was the same 15 people all the time.
Yeah.
And like the trails were hidden. There was no signage or anything, right? Like whenever I built a trail out there, I had to hide it because we had a massive problem with dirt bikes, right? Dirt bikes would get on the
yes.
trail and they'd ruin it, right?
Destroy it.
And I'm not knocking those guys. I love dirt bikes and I love Gopher Dunes. I love everything about that, right? But they're very hard on a mountain bike trail, especially when that mountain bike trail is made out of sand.
Yeah.
Like you get a CR250 cranking around.
Tears it right
Oh, man, does it ever, right? So, like, it was the same amount of guys, same guys. And I think we just talked about it after rides forever, like hanging around, drinking beer. We should make a club. And then like 3 years later, we actually finally got to it. But you know what really our strength was that we had the right guys involved, like, some pretty important people. It was a perfect storm, as I call it, because we just had people from some very important walks of life that wanted to make this happen.
Yeah, resources or knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they came up and they're the ones that really started it and formed it. And I was actually against it at first because I'm like, I don't want to share my secret with anybody. But this place is awesome.
Yeah.
But they won me over, and I'm happy to say now that way more good came out of the Turkey Point Mountain Bike Club than bad.
Yeah.
And
You were a founding member, yeah?
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's been a wicked transformation to see what it's become. And
So what has it done? What was the purpose of making it?
well, that was my question. Why do we need to form a club, right? Like, why do we got to do this? But it was explained to me, like, you need to be official. You need to be professional. You need to have a contact member, right? And I think if I remember back in those days 10 years ago or more, more user groups seem to be using the woods and the trails, right? And we just wanted to get a foothold and say, look, we're here. If you need us to help build trails, or if you need us to, stay out of areas, we have a liaison that you can discuss that with. We have a president that you can have that. We started to sign land agreements, user agreements with owners, and yeah, it just kind of started like that. And it was more official. It was more polished than a bunch of guys out in the woods, right? And again, I think there was a lot of misunderstanding about us in the early days. We're a bunch of yahoos out there,
Ripping around the
ripping
trails.
around, which
Yeah.
we're not. Like, the average age of our member is over 40 years old. Like, we're
Okay.
not, like, it's not a thing for young people, right? Like, the cost of bikes obviously is not cheap, and
You need a bike rack. You need
you do.
transportation.
Yes, there's
Yeah.
an initial investment. I mean, it's not horrible. Like, I got a buddy that plays golf and spends, thousands on that every year, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's pick your poison, right? Do what
Yeah.
you want. But, I think for younger people, starting out with families and whatnot, like, it's not, you're not going to go out and buy a $5,000 mountain bike. Not that you need to, of course, but it's just, it hasn't taken hold with that demographic for whatever reason. I don't know. So the average age of our member is probably 40 and up. Kids, a lot of kids. Like, I'm seeing more kids out there now, which is awesome. Ultimately, that's where the future of the
That'll be
sport
that
lies.
next one. Yeah. So,
yeah.
okay. And you're doing lessons through Elevation?
Yeah, I do lessons.
Yeah.
Lessons and tours, kids camps. I haven't done kids camps in a while. COVID really affected us with that. But it is something that I want to get back to. It was so much fun. Ty Backus and I, Ty had a little business called South Coast Water Sports. And so we had a great camp for kids called the Pedal and Paddle Camp, where we'd get the kids out on the bikes in the morning. We'd ride like 16, 18K with the kids in the morning. We'd have lunch. Yeah, it was a heavy camp. And then we'd take them paddle boarding in the afternoon. And then we'd do a trip down Big Creek on the Thursday. We did zip lining on the Friday at Long Point Eco Adventures. It was a tremendous camp, and it was well received. We just couldn't do a lot of kids at once, which actually made it better if you think, because it's not day camp, right? Like we're not
more attention on each individual
absolutely.
rider. Yeah,
and they need it, like
yeah,
because that camp is real. Like it's very athletic, it's very physical, right? And you're not making macaroni necklaces. Like it's pretty big deal for these kids, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's actually why a lot of parents enjoyed it. Like I remember Ryan Vandenbush had his kids in it, and he said, "Miko, my kids are falling asleep in their spaghetti at night. Like I love it. They're in there, right?" Like he couldn't believe like the physical aspect of that camp. Like it was grueling. It was awesome. So hopefully we can get back to that. I mean, we had a lot of fun with it too. Like it's just kids are so happy to be out. And I remember I did a ride with it was like a bunch of kids from inner city kids, right? That were troubled, and I said the guy that set it up said, just be careful. Like we're gonna send a chaperone with you, like, but just be knowing that these kids come from
rough
area, and rough upbringing and blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I said, well, I'm not really too concerned with it because kids change when they're in the forest. They do, right? Like, and right. Not to get all hippie on you, but like it is when you're out there in the natural surrounding.
Fix your mind.
Yeah, man.
The air is cleaner. You can smell the dirt and the leaves.
And on a bike, like if you think about it, the bike is the first thing that's your first experience with independence, right? When your old man or whoever taught you how to ride a bike, let go of that seat at some point, and you're cruising along on your own. Magically.
I remember mine.
Of course you do. Everybody does.
It was a yellow bike.
Everybody does.
Yellow,
that's the feeling
black,
I get every
bike,
time I get on a bike.
Yeah.
I still get that feeling. That's like, it's just magic to me, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, like when I got these inner city kids onto it, like they were loving it. And I was telling them stories about, shagbark hickory trees and all this really cool stuff that we have that's unique to this area. And they were like loving it. They loved it. There was not one problem all day with these kids.
Well, before they come, they probably don't know that even exists. Like
Right.
how could they know?
Absolutely.
They come from like the inner city parts and have never left it.
Well, I didn't, to be quite honest, I didn't either, right? Until I started talking to guys out there and they're pointing out these trees and I'm like, no way. Like it's pretty wild what we have.
I mean, even just the valley cutting through by Eco there in the water. I'm like, how is this here?
Yeah.
It's hidden. You don't see it on the road. So
Yeah, it's awesome.
it's gorgeous.
You feel like you're in BC when you're out there.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
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 That's great.
It's weird for here.
Yeah.
We shot there's a show called, I think it was on the Outdoor Network, called Ride Guide. And they'd go all these different places and, ride the local trails and do a show on it. And I remember so they hired me as a local guide to show the hosts around and while they were filming. And I remember having dinner with them after filming and they said, like, I thought I was coming out to a farmer's field. Like, this is incredible what you guys have here. And I'm like, I know, it's pretty wild, eh? And he goes, yeah, man, like we shoot all over the world and this is wicked. I'm like, okay, thank you. We're doing something right. Like, it makes you feel good, right? Like it's a wild thing that it is down there. It's an anomaly.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's nowhere else in the county that's like that.
No.
3 points
Not really.
specifically.
Yeah.
And if you're just a tourist driving to the winery, you're like, oh yeah, this is scenic. And then you get on a bike and you ride back those trails, you're like, holy shit. Like
Exactly.
And there's some intense ones. There's some that I would say I'm pretty advanced, but there were some that made me nervous. Some older black diamonds that I don't think are there anymore. But
yeah, we lost a good one. one we called Jimmy's Joker. That was kind of like our our signature trail, I called it. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it was nothing, but it had this reputation, right? That it was just this gnarly thing. But it was just so fun to ride, and really, like, the reason it was so fun to ride is because it had elevation, right? And we're just so vertically challenged here, but we had it on that trail, and it just flowed so nicely, and there was a little sense of danger to it, of course, which is nice. And I mean, not in a bad way, but in an exhilarating way.
Get your
right?
heart going.
Yeah, not a careless way, right? Like there is a difference, right?
I've wiped out.
Yeah, it's not fun.
I've wiped out into a raspberry bush. That sucked.
Yeah,
That sucked.
absolutely.
Yeah. But it happens.
Sure does.
Yeah.
Sure does.
That's the other thing about the trails. Like, do you wear shorts or do you cover your legs?
Well, I wear shorts most of the time.
Okay.
But like this time of year, I hate the cold, so yeah, I'm running pants. But in the summer, I don't.
Okay. Because I've worn shorts and I find my legs get cut up by brush
Yeah,
and raspberry bushes and things like that.
yeah, and I like some guys wear pants all year because they're worried about ticks and things.
Ticks.
There's
Yeah,
that.
I wear long socks because
Yeah.
of ticks.
I don't know. Like
Is that ever a problem for you?
No.
No?
Like I'm out there so often, and I pick. I mean, some people might think this is a big number, but I pick maybe half a dozen ticks off me a year. Maybe. Like as a rider, they're not really. You don't come into contact.
You're not
with them.
walking, you're-
That's right. A hiker would experience them more,
Yeah.
but we don't.
and you're out there all the time. So
all
for you
the
only
time.
to have half a dozen in the whole span, like
Yeah.
that's pretty good.
Yeah, the odds are all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never had a problem with them.
Do you know if our county's doing anything to like kind of mitigate that, the ticks and things like that? Is anyone doing anything?
I would imagine it being an M&R thing, but I mean, I don't. Where do you start? Like, those
Where do you
things are
start?
everywhere now.
Yeah,
Like,
it's bad.
I mean, yeah, I don't know anything about the control of them or anything like that. Yeah, I mean, I just do the check all the time, right? The check your clothes, check your body, and if I'm hiking, which I recently got into again, in the mornings, like I'll use a spray for that reason, right? But not when I'm riding. I don't.
What else are you bringing? Do you have like a Camelback? Do you just put a bottle of water? Or do you bring
I
snacks?
just use bottle of water.
Bottle of
yeah.
water.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Simple.
not. Well, I don't like the Camelbacks. You carry them up high, and I don't know. I don't like the balance.
The weight change?
Yeah, it just
Yeah.
throws you off.
Yeah, it's a bit more weight. I always ride with one, and then one time I rode without it, and I'm like, whoa, you just feel so much more free.
It's a big difference.
Yeah.
Big difference. I only run the Camelback if I'm like guiding on a big trip, like somewhere where you're packing not only water but food and safety gear and things like that, right? But that's a different type riding. Like when we ride, like tonight, like it's a high level ride. It's a pretty fast pace.
You're riding tonight?
Yeah, tonight it's our Tuesday night group that rides, and but I like if I'm guiding somewhere, it's a slow kind of casual taking it in. Sure, we'll heat it up on a nice flowy section, but like you're in the backcountry usually, right? Like we were on this trail in West Virginia. It was like 47K A to B, and like you were just on this spine the whole way traversing. It was the Shenandoah Valley on one side and the Canaan Valley on the other, and like nobody was coming to get you. Like,
Yeah.
if something went wrong, like nobody was coming to get you. So you're kind of you're chilling the pace down a little bit, right? For safety issues, but also because you want to take it in. Like it's not just about speed. You want to get the vistas and the views, and I mean that's why you're there, right? And but yeah, we had a good group on that. Mike MacArthur and a bunch of guys. It was fun.
Oh, okay.
We had a good group that time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was
All
fun.
right.
It was fun.
I know that feeling. I've done the Inca Trail, and I was like, okay, if I wipe out, it's like they're not coming. Like I don't know. They would the porters, I guess, would just carry you. I don't know. Like, what do you do
I don't
when you're
even
on?
know. Like on that
Like how-
specific trail, I don't even know how they get to you. Like, well, I do. They'd probably come up in a quad or a side by side, but man, it would take hours
Take
for
a
them
while.
to get to you. Like if something bad happened, like, and it doesn't even have to be like an injury. Like it doesn't have to be catastrophic. Like what if you just tear the derailleur off your bike or if you don't have a tube or toast a wheel, like maybe you do have a tube, but the wheel's a talker.
Bend
You're
the
not,
rim, yeah.
you're not going anywhere. Like that's a long walk. Like but that's backcountry stuff, right?
Mhm.
We don't have any of that here, obviously.
No.
Here you're going to run into a concession road within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
If you get lost, you're all right.
Well, that's the other thing, right? Because the area you've partnered with farmlands and things like that, right? Is that the
Yeah,
idea?
I think we've got 11
Okay.
landowners that we have agreements with. Yeah.
Because you're crossing on their land, but they're like, hey, it's cool.
Yeah, they're cool. Like for the club, like we charge, I think it's $35 a year for a membership.
Oh, okay, that's nothing.
Well, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
It's not much at all. And unfortunately in today's world, most of that $35 goes to liability, right? We pay for insurance and
Because of it going on these private lands?
yeah, before you approach a landowner, I mean, their number one concern is liability, right? So
Yeah.
when you can, tell them, no, we're set up, we have the appropriate insurance, we have these checks and balances in place. Like we've got, defibs around now. We just bought one for the club, and we take safety very seriously, obviously, right? It's not, as I like to say, it's not the chess club. Like a lot can happen out there, and it usually does, right?
How does that apply to trails that aren't on private land? Is it used? How does that work?
Like rogue trails, you mean?
Or like all the trails on private land? Because some of it is just public land, correct?
Yeah. So we've got trails on like M&R Crown land.
Okay. So if someone hurts themselves there, that doesn't fall back on the club, does it?
I don't know. We carry insurance for it.
Okay, even Crown land?
Yeah. Well, it's a
Okay.
blanket, I'm
Because I feel
assuming.
like they would just go after the country.
I don't know.
I don't know how that works. Okay,
I don't know either. I mean, you're talking to the wrong guy when
gotta talk to Mike.
you do, yeah. I just ride.
Okay, cool. I was just curious. Wasn't sure if you knew.
I don't know all the
Okay.
the ins and outs of the legalities of the insurance.
The private land obviously is pretty obvious. So
Yeah, and our private landowners have been really good to us, and they understand what we're doing. And most people do, right? I mean, you're getting people outside, you're getting them moving, mental and physical exercise, so to speak, right? To be out in that atmosphere again, like it doesn't happen everywhere, right? So we're fortunate that we can kind of are allowed to do that and can provide that, right?
does the club run into a lot of issues? Is it pretty smooth sailing?
No.
Yeah,
We're
because people just go. You maintain the trail, you have insurance.
Well, we have like now it's actually the trail stuff is running like a top now because Brian Pond, like he retired. He's a guy in our club and he's the head of the maintenance, and he retired a few years ago, and he's got a group of other retired guys.
So lots of time.
Yeah, man. And so like every like workday Wednesday he calls it.
Yeah.
His group goes out and they're cutting tree lines back or old trees that are off and clearing, and like this time of year they're blowing leaves off. But like they're always doing something, right? And I mean I joke, but like our trail system, it's like Augusta National.
Yeah, it's pristine.
It's amazing. Like it's carpet. Like it's beautiful out there. But no, Brian does an amazing job, and his crew, those guys are incredible. And again, like this goes back to that perfect storm that I mentioned. Like we just have the right people in the right positions for everything across the board. Like it's just been, we've been really fortunate. It's been great. Like Long Point Eco Adventures, right? That's another one, right? Like we have all our events there every year. And Dave's good enough to allow us to do so. And I mean, that's key, right? When you're building a community like that, you need help and you need a location, right? Norfolk County's been great to us too, with the dump land, allowing us to put a parking lot there. And like, it's a collective effort that's really played out in our favor.
So how do we convince people locally to join the club?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, so I've tried to do that with my elevation mountain bike camp thing by offering rentals because, bikes are not cheap, right? And I want you to have it's like you never get the second chance to make a first impression. So I'm big on the experience, right? And if you have a good first experience, you're probably going to try it again. So you can rent a bike from me that's high level, right?
It's a professional bike.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
not a department store bike. It's a real bike. My rental bikes are $1,800, right? So it's not garbage. And you can either choose self-guided or you can hire me to guide you. I'll just show you around, show you some cool trees, get you out there, get you involved, right?
Basic
And
skills.
Absolutely. And that's what I call it, is an instructional tour. Because with our sport, it can be very intimidating to start for a number of reasons, not just because of, a rocky or rough trail, but your heart rate gets jacked, right? Most people haven't ridden a bike in a while, in that age category, right? They're discovering it again.
Well, and
There's a shifter. There's a
the simple skill that you taught me when you took me out was keep your pedals level.
level pedals. Yeah,
People like, why would anyone think of that?
exactly, and
So-
it means so much out there, right?
Yeah, 'cause you can catch it.
big time, and good that you remembered that.
I do. Yeah.
You're
You-
natural.
You taught me that skill.
Yeah, it was, but it's not rocket science, right? But you have to give them the basic tools to just enjoy themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest really does itself. Like takes care of it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you either like it or you don't. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
I would say 75% do like it and try it again. If you're the kind of person that likes to be challenged, likes to figure out puzzles, mountain biking is definitely for you because there's just so many different facets to it. And it never gets easy. There's always a new challenge, right?
Yeah.
Like this is my 28th year riding and I'm still learning how to do things better. And it's still entertaining to me. It's not.
My cousin that's really into it also does rock climbing.
Oh yeah.
So that kind of goes hand in hand. Like
Big
you
time.
can never, it's just always difficult.
Absolutely.
Like you can always climb a more difficult wall. So there's always progression.
That's exactly right. And I think that's what keeps you coming back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to pinpoint, one thing that,
Yeah.
And then there's
Makes it
Strava
pop.
too.
well, yes,
Strava makes it a lot of fun. Like when we were going with the boys, like Matt and all
Yeah.
them would go get a beer after, but we'd have the segments where we'd want to, who's going to get the fastest time? Never me, but
Yeah.
like Wade was
But
up
you can
there.
always
Matt,
try.
Always up there,
Nick
yeah.
Brandhorst,
Yeah.
they were,
Yeah, Nick can ride, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, there's some fast guys out there.
And that's a cool app because it does make it,
It
you
do-
have like
well-
a number.
Yes, and you can quantify it.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's competition.
Yeah.
And that's what we all like, right? Not everybody, but
It's a driver.
it
Oh,
is.
for sure.
It is. It is. Unfortunately, I'm not talked about in those circles much anymore because I'm pretty slow.
You don't have any king of the mountains?
That's
no,
okay.
my KOM's.
You're just the legend hanging
ended-
around these guys.
Yeah,
so.
I'm just the old guy drinking beer in the back now. But there's no. I don't think I have any. In fact, I know I don't have any KOMs anymore. If maybe my only hope is if they start doing these KOMs for the assist bikes, I
yeah.
might sneak in there for
There
one
you
of
go.
those. But no, I'm not that type of rider. Yeah,
Anymore.
Been there, done
anymore.
that.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah. But it's the Strava. That's a love-hate relationship too, right? Because now we call them Strava cuts. People are putting shortcuts in the trails
Oh yeah.
to be faster on their Strava time. And I'm like, oh, does it mean that
Cheating.
much to you, really? Like, come on. But whatever. It is what it is. That's human nature. Right?
So this app, can everyone go and see everybody else's, even people you don't know?
Yeah, it's like
Okay.
a leaderboard, right?
I understand.
So it's essentially a GPS service that maps your ride, but then there's segments that are laid out that compares you on these segments to the other population, the entire
Yeah.
population.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, but it's caused some issues.
One thing I want to ask before you go is where can people rent your bikes? How do they get a hold of you? How do they book you? Everything's located at Long Point Eco Ventures, right? Your rental bikes?
Yes.
Usually in the summer?
I contract through them. Yeah.
Okay.
You can also book on my website,
Okay.
elevationmtb.com.
And you got a social media and that everything.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Instagram, all those, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all there. Yep.
Okay.
And you sell the bikes too, because I bought one, I think 2019.
I do, yeah. Rocky Mountain. I only
Yeah.
deal Rocky Mountain.
Yeah,
don't deal
and
with
I
other
still have
brands.
mine. I still love it.
Do you? Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
There's
yeah.
like a Fusion 40.
Yeah, you got the Fusion. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Still kicking.
Yeah, those the 40's the best out of that line.
Yeah.
And it does the job around here.
Oh, fuck
absolutely. Yeah. Nice bikes. Yeah, I'm really happy with them. They've always been good to me. Yep.
Sweet.
Been a while now.
And how do people join the club?
TPMBC.com. You can sign up online and pay. Yeah, and like I said, it's $35 a year. Oh, important to know. You don't need to be a member to ride our trails. We just appreciate the support, basically, is what it comes down to, right? Again, most of that membership fee is going to go to insurance, but what money we have left over, we're buying leaf blowers or weed trimmers or, stuff for Brian to help him and his crew do their job better.
Yeah,
right?
shout out to Brian.
Yeah, well, Brian's a massive asset for sure. Yeah. Let's again, you don't and by any means you don't need to just be a mountain biker. Like we've got the running group. I can't remember the name. I wanna say they're
There's a
called
running group?
There's a running group that uses it. Yeah, and they come out and help us on grooming days and things like that. Right, that cat's making a lot of noise.
He wants to join the running club.
Yeah. They're great. And that group is much smaller than ours, but we're happy to have them out there. It's good. It's nice to have people out there, right? And I think that like if people know there's other users out there, like that kind of encourages other people to go out and try, right? Like, I don't know. It's just such an amazing area, especially if you are on foot. Like to walk 90 kilometers, like that'd take you a while, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, man. Like you could really set up a goal if you were into hiking and trail walking.
What is a marathon? 52 or something like that?
I don't know.
I
Never
forget.
ran one.
It's like 28 or 20 something miles or 32 miles, I think but that would be more than a marathon if you were to do that. But that would be if
I would
someone
think.
should do that.
42.
42 kilometers? Okay.
There you go.
That's a lot.
Two
So it's more than
marathons.
double. It's like 2 marathons. Yeah. Yo, someone do that.
Yeah.
It would be cool. I know they have the kids running, like the schools, elementary school running championship or whatever it's called down there. Cross country stuff. Cause it's a great place to do that, right? I think like orienteering would be cool down there too. I know.
Oh, I used to do that.
Did you?
Yeah, in middle school.
Yeah, I had a high school teacher. He did it. I never was involved in it, but he's actually in the Norfolk Hall of Fame. Dave Baldock is his name, and he was very big on orienteering, and I would think that this area would be perfect for it. From what I understand about the sport, I'm not too familiar with it, but
What is?
It's just like adult scavenger hunt, essentially.
Oh, okay.
I think that's accurate.
There's
yeah.
like checkpoents and you have to like find them
Yeah.
and then make it back and then whoever
Okay.
has the best time.
Oh, cool.
I did it when I was like 11 or 12. We got fifth, I think, out of like a bunch of schools.
It sounds cool.
But me and this guy were tall and lanky and fast.
If I could do it on a bike, I'd do it.
Oh my! You
wanna do
could
it.
do that, like bike orient.
It'd be
like
kind of
just
neat. Yeah.
Blend the two.
Yeah.
Maybe Easter. The club should do like a Easter egg
There you go.
mountain bike thing.
That's
You have to go catch the rabbit in the mascot
concept.
suit.
There you
Put him
go.
on the back of your
golden
bike,
snitch,
tie him
yeah.
up, get him back to the finish line.
that's ringing a bell. I want to say we did that one year. I can't remember what that was about though. Yeah, I think we did something like that. I don't know.
And there's geocaching.
Geocaching, yeah.
Geocaching, yeah. I did that with my kids.
We did that in high school, but I don't know. I think it's still a thing.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
People will just bury stuff.
Yes,
It's hilarious.
it is. It is.
I should geocache some folk merch or something.
Yeah, you should. That'd
you
be
go.
good. Because isn't it like you go to it, you take whatever's in it, and then you leave something?
I think so.
It's like a little give and take thing.
Yes.
I was learning about it in high school. It was part of our geography class, and we had GPSs, and we were just doing geocaching stuff. But, yeah.
Fun.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
guys.
and obviously I knew you and I
really
knew your
appreciate
story, but I didn't know like all the details. So
Yeah.
DJ details.
yeah, like being a DJ.
Wait, did you have a DJ name?
Yeah, what were we? DJ's Unlimited.
Nice.
DJ's Unlimited, yeah. Yeah, it wasn't anything too spectacular.
DJ
But we did have
Derail.
lights. We had all that stuff.
Oh,
man.
that's sweet.
Oh yeah, we had a whole system going. It was cool.
Yeah, a lot more work back then too. Just
Oh yeah.
because,
Yeah.
like, I mean, I could DJ with this pad. I'm not going to, nor do I have the skills, but you could.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you really need to
You
know.
just download a program back then.
Exactly.
You had to go out and buy.
Yeah, I remember
all
when
the
CDs
music.
came out, it made that job a lot easier. Like
And
a
now
lot
even
easier.
those aren't even a thing.
No, exactly. Like,
Crazy. Everything's digital.
I can't imagine because I was at a wedding this summer. I don't get to many weddings these days, but I was at a wedding this summer and I was watching the guy DJ and he just had a laptop and I'm like, man, look at that. Like,
Well, like,
all your
I don't
music
know
is
it
right there.
too well, but like you can match the BPMs
Yes.
and like click a song and have them blend.
Yes.
So it's not like,
You don't need to know it all. Just be like, oh, give me
You
the
can program
songs
it.
that
Yes.
have
Now.
these. Yeah.
yeah. And they're like, oh, okay, here's a list of these. Okay, I'll do this one next. And there's some DJs out there that are just wild. Like there's this, I think they're a brother duo or like a two guys and they
Two friends.
mix up all sorts of songs into like one set and they don't stop. They play for like an hour and a half and it's like hundreds of songs in one song.
Yeah. That's,
And they blend all the music together.
that's cool stuff. I don't like, but the computer's doing it, right?
Yeah. Well,
Well,
you have the creativity to
Is there?
select, I'm sure, and then
they have to know what songs they want to blend
Do they? Okay.
and how to do it, but the software will help them.
Is that guy, David Guletta? Is that guy? Is that
David
what
Guetta.
Guetta? Is that his name?
Guetta.
Is that what he
Guetta?
does?
I think it's Guetta.
Guetta.
Yeah, David Guetta.
Is that what he
Obviously,
does?
there's Dead Mouse, there's
Oh, yeah.
Marshmallow, there's like David Guetta's one of the older ones. Where is he from? Is he Swedish or something?
Yeah, he's somewhere.
He was one of the pioneers. He's in his 50s.
Yeah.
I mean, even Dead Mouse is like 40s. But who are the big ones now? I was in the EDM scene a while ago, maybe like early 20s, but not so much anymore. So I don't know all the artists.
Yeah.
There's Martin Garrix,
Yeah.
Tiesto. Tiesto's a big one. He's huge. He's one of the biggest.
He's pretty
he's
old
like
now too, isn't he?
yeah, his 50s. He's like the Tony
Nice.
Hawk of the DJ. I would say
Oh,
Tiesto and Martin Garrix. I like or Guetta. They're older. Yeah.
And then you got your guy, Jordan.
And you
Yeah,
got
yeah,
Jordan,
Jordan.
running a whole DJ business.
I enjoyed
local David Guetta.
his podcast because I didn't realize he was the guy at Capitol.
Mhm.
And like, what a cool thing, man. I really hope that works out for everybody because
I think it's going well.
is it good?
Yeah, he's
'Cause,
booking a lot of stuff.
Yeah, he seems to be. And I always say I'm going to get there, but it's hard to get me out of Turkey Point. But it's
You gotta go. It's nice.
yeah,
It's beautiful in there.
Oh, it's got cool music going on.
Well, there's
I keep
Lounge
hearing that.
33, which is like the restaurant and bar,
right.
and like full bar. Like you can get anything. He has a whiskey club too. So you said he likes
does he?
scotch.
I do, yeah.
They got
Oh,
like
shit,
distilled
yeah.
water with the droppers, and you can
Oh, yeah?
buy into the whiskey club.
Okay.
And then it comes with like certain perks and things like that, discounts.
And he's got the venue.
Oh yeah, and then he has the venue in the back for concerts and weddings and events and.
He's getting some pretty cool acts in there.
Oh yeah,
He had the guy from, was it Big Sugar?
I can't keep up with them all. They're like
yeah, I
almost
was
every
away.
weekend.
I missed it, but
He's had like Tim Hicks or I
yeah,
think Tim Hicks is coming.
that's cool.
Like he's had big acts there.
that's
It's a huge space. You can fit a lot of people.
oh, you can?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I didn't.
I
know
don't
that.
know
Like how many?
If I'm spitballing a few hundred,
Really?
probably.
So enough to have a good time, but not
Oh, yeah.
too much that you got a bad seat.
Yeah.
Right.
Like if you go to like concerts in Toronto to these independent theaters, it's like that size. I'd like
Okay.
I don't know. I don't actually know. I could get this. I could be really off, but between 300 and 500 maybe more. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
that-
big. It was the old movie theater. My mom. Well,
Right.
he was telling me my mom used to go to it, but they took all the seats out and huge stage.
Yeah, I gotta go check that out. I've never been in there.
Yeah, he's got like a loft upstairs. He does like well, I think that's where he does some of the club stuff. But then I think he has a room too for brides and grooms.
Yeah,
now?
they had like a
Like an ensuite?
bachelorette kind of like get ready for the. I think they're turning it into an Airbnb maybe.
And he's got a balcony that looks into the concert area, so you can go and sit up.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's really
a cool
cool.
spot.
I don't know if you can like pay extra for that or how that works.
Yeah.
But, yeah,
That's cool.
yeah, super cool.
Got to get over there.
You should.
David Wilcox was the big one that
Oh,
he came there, and my dad's a huge David Wilcox fan, so
love
I
that guy.
bought him tickets.
He's got
Have
a
you seen
wing.
him?
No, but I just bought 2 for my mom and dad and sent them there.
I miss that one. I heard about it like a week after he was there. I've seen Dave Wilcox a few times, and that guy's unbelievable. But to see him in your home,
Yeah, and like a
Town.
small intimate venue, like
Yeah,
that's the
that'd
cool
be-
thing about Capital. Like it's big, but not like
Not too big.
huge.
Yeah.
You still get
It's
to
like-
like see them.
Yeah. It's a perfect size, I would say.
yeah,
Pretty ideal.
very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got to get over there.
Should.
He's doing a lot of cover bands too, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, saw that. Very good.
Mhm.
Very good.
Yeah. All right, man. Anything we haven't touched on that you want to talk about?
I don't think so.
Okay. I think we kind of went full circle.
Peace, love, mountain biking.
Peace, love, mountain biking. Join the mountain bike club.
There's the next T-shirt.
Yeah.
Talk to Eric about that. Yeah.
It'll be Paul on a bike.
yeah.
Exactly.
Hey you, you're listening to Just Drew, Just Drew, Just Drew.